This is episode 2 in a limited series I'm working on about personal style. So far, I'm thinking there are probably going to be 4 episodes in total. The thesis of it all being how to build a wardrobe that actually works for you, with actionable steps so you know what to do. I'm trying to get away from these vague ideas, loose concepts, and away from the idea of trying to sell you something or the idea that you need to buy a bunch of stuff, because that's just not true. The last episode focused all on color and color palettes. Today's episode is going to focus all on silhouettes, fits, and building a style uniform or an outfit recipe, whichever term you prefer. The first step in this process is defining what you actually need. We don't want to buy things for a fantasy life or a life we used to have. I want my clothes to work for the life I'm actually living. Considering the context of your lifestyle matters a lot when it comes to the holistic approach to assessing your wardrobe. I decided to make a pie chart where I broke down by hour where I'm spending most of my time. I personally decided not to include sleep because I don't put a lot of effort in my pajamas. But in essence, my closet should look similar to this. For the longest time, I felt like I couldn't justify buying another pair of sweatpants because I already owned one. But then when I look at this chart, it's like, well, I think I can own 2 pairs of sweatpants with how much time I spend at home. I don't really go shopping much anymore, but when I used to spend a lot of time going shopping, I would look for slightly more formal articles of clothing, stuff for sort of nightlife, time out, a little bit fancy. But looking at my pie chart and how I actually spend my time, those aren't the clothes that I wear very often. I don't have very many situations in which to wear them. So it doesn't make sense for me to bring in a lot of stuff that fits into those categories. I just made a conscious choice that instead of buying outfits to wear to concerts, how about once every 3 years when I actually do go to a concert, I just wear what I have and make it work and use it as an opportunity to maybe get a little bit creative with my outfit. A piece of advice here is to try and avoid fantasy self-purchases. A fantasy self-purchase is something you buy for a fantasy life that you don't have, sometimes even hoping it'll go as far as to influence you to change your behavior or to do something that you currently don't already do. Fantasy self-purchases tend to be the most common with formal wear, active wear, and random special occasion stuff, like a glittery cowboy hat. I'm not saying you can never get a glittery cowboy hat. Do the habit first, then buy the clothes. Buying a really cute matching set to go to the gym is not suddenly going to make you like working out. Really specific example. Let's say you decide to get really into pickleball. Wear the leggings and t-shirt that you already own, and after you've done it several times and proven to yourself, yeah, I think I'll keep up with this. Then at that point, you can justify buying things specifically for that circumstance. You also are giving yourself the opportunity to assess the requirements you're going to have for it. So maybe you start pickleball and you realize, oh, it's actually really sunny, so maybe you need something with a lot of sun coverage. Don't try and predict your needs, let them present themselves to you. And when they do, listen. On a larger scale, wait until the change happens, then make the change. I've made the point that my clothing needs to reflect my lifestyle. Well, my lifestyle is about to change. Previously, I've been able to work from home most of the time, but my work is requiring that we all go back into the office. So where I was spending most of my day at home, well, that's gonna change pretty significantly. And I have a little time until that happens, and I could go out and buy clothes thinking, I don't have anything to wear to the office, I don't have enough office-y clothes. But I'm gonna hold off, I'm intentionally waiting, and I'm gonna play with what I already have in my closet. I'm gonna spend several months just wearing what I already own, seeing what works, seeing what doesn't. That way, if I do find that I need to buy clothing because I don't have enough to get me through the work week, I have a better idea of what it is I should actually be looking for. I don't want to go in and try and solve problems when I don't yet know what the problems are. I give the same advice for any lifestyle change. Wait until the change happens, then you change your clothes. Changes might include significant adjustments to your body's shape and size. If you gain or lose a lot of weight, it's not just the size of you that changes, it's your proportions. It's parts of you are rubbing together now that previously never did. A big piece of it is temperature regulation. I gained 60 pounds at one point. All of a sudden, I ran really warm all the time. Well, then I lost 50 pounds. I was still running warm all the time. And if I had prepared in advance thinking, oh, I'm going to go back to being cold all the time, I would have been wrong. It was a logical assumption. I would have been wrong. Other changes might be becoming a parent, moving to an entirely new climate, starting a new career. Try not to go crazy buying a new wardrobe under the guise of being prepared. Oh, and also note, you do get bonus points if you have articles of clothing in your wardrobe that fit into multiple categories on your lifestyle pie chart. Let's take linen pants, for example. I like wearing those on walks. I can wear them to work, and I love wearing them lounging at home. They're a score on all fronts. In fact, I often wear them bouldering as well. Trying to future-proof and finding items that work in multiple categories is an excellent way of building in versatility. As we move through this process, I'm going to offer up different exercises you can do, and usually they tie into the visual references I'm going to give. So in this section, I would recommend that you make your own pie chart. Where do you actually spend your time? What are you doing? Don't forget things like walking, running errands, lounging, going to work, social engagements, doing chores. Define the boundaries that your clothing needs to respect. As an exercise, I would recommend getting out a piece of paper and a pen and brain dumping as many style requirements that you can think of. And I'll give plenty of examples because it's kind of hard to sit there and come up with ones off the top of your head. But once you get started, they kind of pop in here and there. And if you keep it in the back of your head as you move through your week, you'll start noticing stuff a little bit. First thing to think about is maintenance and care. How much energy are you willing to put into maintaining an article of clothing? For me, I want most of my clothes to be machine washable, but I do wash everything on the cold setting and I try to air dry as much as possible, so it doesn't need to make it through the dryer. I am willing to hand wash some items, but I prefer that those items be ones that can be worn multiple times before needing to be hand washed, like my wool sweaters. Think about climate. I live in the Pacific Northwest. I'm from Minnesota, and there are very different climates. But climate-wise, it does rain quite a bit here in the winter, and I like to go on walks every day if I can. If you live somewhere that's really humid and you find that you're sweating a lot, maybe you need clothes that can handle being washed more frequently. Think about whatever body sensitivities you might have. For me, I don't like when my clothing clings into sensitive areas, especially like my underarms. If something's tight in the underarm, I'm never gonna wear it. And if I do, I will spend the entire time thinking, gosh, this is so uncomfortable. I don't wanna think that all day. I have better things to think about. Consider fabrics. I personally run really warm, so I prefer breathable fabrics, kind of like this cotton top that I'm wearing. I also personally just have a strong preference towards natural fibers because I'm kind of a snob like that. Do you have any requirements about your body fluctuating in size and shape over time? For me, I know that I like my clothing to accommodate me a few sizes up and a few sizes down. So my clothing needs to be able to adjust to fit my body as it grows and shrinks and changes shape every once in a while. A tip around this is I actually store clothing that is too big and too small for me in a container under my bed. So I actually have a pair of jeans that are a size smaller and I have a pair of jeans that are a size larger. So if you have any clothes that are a little bit too small for you, maybe just, if you have room or space, stick them in a little bin under your bed. Think about if you have requirements around sweat. I don't want tops that show sweat. I sweat all the time, whether it's cold outside or hot outside, it doesn't matter. I love the way that I look in a heather gray t-shirt, but nothing shows sweat more than a heather gray t-shirt. And it's not worth my mental energy to put one on and think the entire time, gosh, can anyone see? I gotta keep my arms down. And don't feel like you need to have certain requirements in here. If you don't care about sweat, don't care about sweat. I personally, I don't shave my underarms. My skin is very sensitive. I could care less if people see that I have some hair on my body. Someone alert the church. A woman showing hair on her body? For some people, you really do care about that, and you are allowed to care about that. And if you do care, put that as one of your requirements. If you don't like shaving your underarms or doing hair removal under there, but you also don't want to show that off, maybe you don't buy tank tops as much. A big thing to think about as well is undergarments, regardless of your gender. I refuse to wear bras with underwire. They are incredibly uncomfortable and it irritates my scars, so I will not be wearing those. And my clothing needs to be okay being paired with just like bralettes and sports bras. I also know people that don't like wearing bras at all, but they also don't want to be showing everything off, so they don't buy sheer tops. These are personal requirements for whatever kind of life you want to have. Have I repeated that enough times? Do you want pockets? Yes, no. On shirts, pants? How many? Front, back, side, cargo? How big do they need to be? Oh, and think about storage space. Not enough people think about that. How much room do you have in your closet? How much room do you have in your home? Can you store stuff away when it's off season or no? So those requirements are ones that pretty much anybody should be thinking about, but there are some requirements to think about for more specific lifestyles. Maybe you have a gaggle of kids in your home, and so your clothes need to hide stains or be easily washable. Do you have a black dog that sheds like crazy, but you don't like lint rolling yourself every time? Maybe your clothes need to lean a little darker, or maybe you opt for fabrics that don't cling dog fur as easily. At work, do you bend down a lot or reach up and you don't like when your shirt rides up and shows your stomach? Your clothes should accommodate that. Maybe you have a tattoo that you're really proud of and you want to show off because it was expensive and hurt. Have more clothes in your closet that show it off. Are you allergic to the sun or have really sensitive skin? Maybe all your shirts need to be a tighter, more denser fabric so it doesn't let the sun through as easily. Do you sit in a wheelchair most of the time? So your clothing needs to feel really comfortable when you're sitting down, but you're not standing up as much, so it doesn't really matter if it doesn't look as great when you're standing up. There are millions of requirements out there because there are billions of different people, all with different lifestyles. I found it really helpful to sit down and just brainstorm some of them. It's really helped me make sure that I don't bring stuff into my closet that I'm never gonna wear because, oh, it shows a lot of sweat, it's really uncomfortable when I sit down, and oh, that fabric makes a swishy sound when I walk around my office. Being honest with yourself about your requirements leads to better purchases and better projects if you're someone that likes to make their own clothes like I do. So I already talked about the exercise for this section, which is just writing down your requirements for the things that I've already talked about, brainstorm some ones that I didn't discuss that are more particular to you in your life, but also go through your closet and see what articles of clothing have you not been wearing very often, and try and ask yourself why. Now we're getting into silhouettes and fits. We're going to get a lot more concrete with this stuff. In the world of silhouettes and fit, let's talk first about height or length. This is where on your body do you like your tops to end and your bottoms to start. I personally follow the rule of thirds for myself. This might be different for you based on what your preferences are. Do you have a personal preference with length? And as I go through these, no, maybe you don't have a personal preference. Maybe you don't care. Critically think about it for a second and don't just say, I don't know, therefore I don't care. Think about it for a second because maybe you do, but it is totally okay if you can say, oh, I actually don't care where my shirts end. I like a variety. Okay, we talked about length. What about width? How wide do you like your clothing to be? Do you like tight tops and tight bottoms? Do you like tight tops and loose bottoms? Loose tops and loose bottoms? Or loose tops and tight bottoms? Now it's time to get into the nitty-gritty and specifics of it. This is whatever matters to you. I mentioned that I like loose bottoms, but that doesn't mean I like all loose bottoms. So in which situations do I not like them? And it's not about saying what you can't have. It's about saying what you love the most. It's just easier to say what you don't like first. Setting requirements also matters a lot when you're making your own clothes. And this is a huge plug for learning to make your own clothes through knitting, sewing, crochet, whatever fiber arts craft you want to get into. It just gives you the ultimate control over the fit of the clothing you're wearing. So the homework in this section, or the exercise I would recommend, is inventorying your wardrobe and dividing it by category. So keeping it relatively broad, you have tops, pants, skirts, dresses, and jackets, or whatever broad categories you find appear most in your closet. For each of those categories, write down what silhouettes do and do not work, what varieties do and don't work. The more specific you can get, generally the better, but it's also okay if you don't have a personal preference. That's kind of a superpower in its own right. If you don't care how denim shorts fit you, you just know that you like denim shorts, great. Doesn't that kind of mean that literally any denim shorts that actively fit you, you would like? That's kind of awesome. And while doing this exercise, keeping in mind what we're ideally looking for is what looks good, what feels good, and what's in the middle. We like this in the Venn diagram of what looks good and feels good. Anything in the middle is golden. And it's not what society says looks good, it's what you say looks good. Step 4, creating a visual reference guide. This is creating a visual language to describe what you love and wear the most. If you did the exercise from the previous section, that's going to come in real handy for this section. That was the groundwork for what we're going to do here. So for this section, I looked at 4 wardrobe categories: tops, bottoms, shoes, and accessories. As an exercise, I wrote down what my favorite silhouettes are that fit into each of these categories. And then I found images to reflect that, ensuring that whatever I include meets all of the clothing requirements that I've already written down. So here you can see the example where I had my tops listed. These are all the different types of tops that I like to wear. There is very little in my closet that doesn't fit into one of these categories. And so this became my clothing reference guide. Make it as specific as makes sense for you. An example for me is t-shirts. At various times in my life, I've owned tons of t-shirts and I've owned 0 t-shirts. It took me a long time to figure out why I would wear certain t-shirts all the time and why I wouldn't wear others at all. After paying attention for a while, I realized, well, I only grab the t-shirts that are cropped on me because those feel the most comfortable. If they're longer than that, then they just like settle on my hips all weird and I feel like I'm adjusting it all the time. So if it's cropped, I'm not really fussing with it as much throughout the day. I kept paying attention and realizing, okay, well, now that I've narrowed it down to just my crop t-shirts, which of these do I wear the most? And it was my white t-shirts. I don't know why. I just really like a white t-shirt. Even if there's stuff on it, that's fine. And by stuff, I mean graphics, not like stains or something like that. But if there's graphics, that's fine. And it doesn't matter what color the graphics are. But I just like a baseline white t-shirt. So I narrowed it down to that, took a look and realized, well, I really like my cotton white t-shirts. So just from paying attention and listening to what I reach for the most, I don't even need to understand it entirely. I know now that if I'm buying a t-shirt, I'm best off if I go for a cropped white cotton t-shirt. And if I can't find it cropped, I'm going to crop it myself. It's not that hard. But with sweatshirts, when I tried to think about that, I just wanted them to be soft. I didn't care about anything else. They can be a little bit more fitted. They can be a little bit more oversized. They can be in any color, material, didn't seem to matter as much. I just wanted them to be soft. So that's what I wrote down as the requirement for that. This is taking the requirements and putting it into the visual language of actual items of clothing. This is an excellent time to mention that this whole strategy, all of this isn't going to work for everyone. If you're the kind of person that likes to experiment and try new things all the time and you just love it and you thrive off of that, great. This strategy probably isn't going to be for you. I'm not that person. I don't like to waste my money on clothing that I'm not going to wear, and I am pretty picky about my clothing. And I had such a hard time trying to figure out why I'm picky and what I'm picky about. And if it was even okay to be picky. I tried to force myself out of that for a while, saying, I need to try new stuff and I need to get over this whole pickiness thing. Well, I let myself lean into the pickiness and now I love my closet. A potential selling point for actually completing these exercises and having the lifestyle pie chart, having these visual reference guides, is it becomes a clear map to help you identify what clothing you actually need so you can forget about everything else. You don't need to think, oh, I don't really own enough pants. I need more pants. And then aimlessly search until you find a pair of pants that happen to work for you. You can look for pants with intention. Also, I don't think I would ever just sit down and think, oh, I need more pants. Like, I need to have a reason. Why do I need more pants? Do I find I'm running out of pants on a regular basis? If so, what kind of pants am I running out of? I'm more likely to run into a scenario where let's say I'm going into the office more, which I'm going to be doing. If I find that I don't have enough bottoms to get me through the week at work and there aren't enough work appropriate pants in my closet, then I get to use all the information that I've cultivated here. Yay! So let's play through this whole I need pants for work scenario. I would look at my visual reference guide and I would see, okay, which of these are actually work appropriate? With that question alone, I've already narrowed it down. At my work, I can get away with a mini skirt and tights. I can get away with a layered dress. I could do elastic linen trousers, or I could do jeans. All of those I could make work appropriate at my job. However, I like to go on walks during my lunch break, so let's go ahead and cross anything off that wouldn't work well for me on walks. I personally don't really want to walk in skirts or dresses, not my favorite. I'd rather go for walks in jeans or a linen trouser. Also, I tend to get overheated at work, and jeans can kind of make me feel a little bit more overheated than maybe a linen trouser would. All right, that narrows it down to just the linen pants for me. And when I think about the requirements I've already established for myself, well, that narrows it down to something incredibly specific. I want pants. I want linen pants. I want them to have an elastic waistband. I want them to be wide-legged, and I need pockets. Pockets that can fit my cell phone so that when I go on a walk, I can fit my cell phone and listen to my audiobooks. And thinking about it, I already made my color palette, which we talked about in the previous episode. So all that requirements put together with it needs to also be one of these colors gives me a very specific idea of what I'm looking for. Now, as a crafty person, we get into the territory of looking for patterns, making those patterns multiple times and adjusting them until they're just right for us. And I am a big supporter of owning multiple things in different fabrics and different colors. So all those requirements I just listed for what I prefer in linen pants, well, that exists in a sewing pattern. It's called the Lane Pants pattern by Sydney Graham. I made that pants pattern once. I figured out what I needed to adjust to make them just perfect for my body and my lifestyle. And I have followed that pants pattern multiple times. So I no longer feel the need to go out in the world and buy linen pants. I mean, cool if I can find some affordable options out in the wild, but if I really do need a pair, I'm just gonna make them because I can do something that fits every single one of my requirements and I don't need to settle. So your homework for this section, if you want to do it, is try to create these visual guides for yourself. Pick whatever number makes sense for you. For me, 6 bottoms, 6 tops, 9 accessories, 4 shoes. That's what made sense. This section is about making style uniforms or outfit recipes, whatever terminology feels the most comfortable to you. After putting together the clothing reference guides, I started mixing and matching and playing around with it a bit until I found certain combinations that I liked, and I noticed a few different trends. I found that there were basically 2 different outfit recipes that worked for me. I don't feel the need to follow an outfit recipe or a style uniform or anything, but I mostly use it as a tool on days where I just don't know what to wear. I don't want to put mental energy into getting dressed. I can just put on a outfit recipe and know that I will feel comfortable, and I can know even if I don't feel particularly cute that day, because some days you just don't. I can know that it objectively looks good because it aligns with this recipe that I predetermined looks good. So for my examples, I have my style uniform A, style uniform B. So for super creatively named, right? For me, that consists of just comfortable tops and high-waisted pants. I wrote out the different options for each element, and these are specifically based off of what I created for the reference guides. And I found various outfits that fit into the definition of this style uniform. And you can see all the different ways it looks while still following the same core recipe. My second style uniform is a little bit more specific, and it's a layered dress or a skirt. I personally don't love wearing dresses on their own. I don't know. I just like layering them. Really into that 90s look. And you can see even with this specific of a style uniform, there's still a lot of versatility and a lot of play. Even when I'm getting super crazy specific and creating all these rules and narrowing it down and saying I can only fit within these certain boundaries and making it smaller and smaller, I've just been helping myself have more freedom to play. It's instead of handing someone every form of art supplies that have ever existed, it's handing them a watercolor set with 6 colors, a paintbrush, and saying paint whatever you want. Like, one option is very limiting, but the other is really overwhelming, and both have the opportunity to create equally beautiful art. So the homework for this section would be taking the visual reference guides, if you decided to make those, messing around with them and building 1 to 3, maybe 4 style uniforms, whatever feels right for you, and outlining what the different elements of those style uniforms are, and then coming up with or finding different images online that align with that uniform so you can see all the different ways that it could work and make sense on days when you're having a hard time coming up with it yourself. All right, this was a lot. This was dense with information. I'll see you in the next episode where we're going to be talking about aesthetics.
Darte mis noches.